Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Anime Podcast. You are joined today by your regular hosts. I'm Link, aka Anise. We got Cooper, aka Brook,
Hello.
and we got Corbett, aka Carter.
Hello.
And today we actually have the immense pleasure of welcoming a new guest onto our show. We actually have Tom Gibbous here, and I'll let you introduce yourself, Tom.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tom Gibbous, and I play the English-speaking voice of Shikamaru Nara on Naruto, and Naruto Shippuden, and Boruto, and Rock Lee Adventures, and all the video games and everything associated with it. So, and I've done some other things as well, but that's the main thing that I'm known for.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy because we were just talking right before we started recording, so many people know about the Naruto dub, even people who haven't even watched Naruto, the classic what a drag, or all the stuff that Shikamaru always loves to say. Those things
Yeah,
are
because in the Japanese, it would
yeah.
be, oh, how troublesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And that's a crazy thing too, because since at least personally, and I know Carter too, we watched the dub first, and for Carter only the dub.
Yeah.
So I know it as what a drag. When I ended up watching it again in Japanese, sometimes it doesn't always say what a drag even in the subtitles. So it's like, wait, I think I know he's saying, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's the same thing. And I just think that I don't know. I think maybe you're probably I don't really know much about the Japanese voice actor of Shikamaru Nara, but I think you are probably the more well known, at least in the West.
Well, yeah, obviously in the
Yeah.
West. I mean, I think it's more accessible for everybody with an English speaking dub. I mean, the hardcore
Mhm.
fans, well, first of all, the hardcore fans read the books, the
Yeah, of
manga,
course.
and
Yeah.
Mhm.
then from there they complain that the manga is the real true source, and the animation in Japanese is a little better than that, and then
Yeah.
down the redheaded stepchild of all of that is the English speaking dub.
Yeah. And
And
actually,
I've
yeah, go ahead.
actually been at parties, this
Yeah.
look, all the fans are great. And if you're into it, you're into it. And if you love Naruto, you love Naruto. But I find it really interesting. Like I've actually been at a party where somebody said, hey, what do you do? Well, I do voiceover.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that show. It's a great show. And it's like, but I only watch it in the Japanese. So
Oh no.
and it's like, did
Mhm.
I just say that that I play Shikamaru Nara? Like right to my face. Here's the thing, people, and fans included, everybody. Good piece of advice. It's something that we all like, right? And it's something we can talk about because
Yeah, of
obviously I'm familiar with the show of this thing that you claim you love. So
course.
even if you could look at me as like, oh, he's the English speaking dub, I'd never heard it. On the
Mhm.
other hand, I'm almost like an expert on this character. So if
Exactly.
you had
True.
any questions or even just a common thing we could start talking about, I mean, it's a great, you know what I mean? It's a great jumping off point. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's such
oh
a good
gosh, I
Mhm.
place
love it.
to start.
We should embrace it all. Everybody should, positive. If you like it in Japanese, good for you. And if you like it just reading the books, great for you. And if you love the English dub or that's all you know, fantastic. It's like we're all one big happy family. We're all following these characters and this
Uh-huh.
storyline, and it's great. Let's enjoy it. Let's celebrate it together. But there is something funny about nerddom that we have to do
Mhm.
that.
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
it's a
everyone's
little
entrenched in
it's a
their
little
camps.
comic book guy,
Yeah.
the whatever. I give it I give it a 6.
No, you're right. Yeah, and you notice a lot of communities kind of become more elite and or
Yeah,
elitist, I guess I should say.
yeah.
And you kind of have to be I know Cooper. Cooper was the first one out of all of us to get into really deep into kind of the rabbit hole of anime and all that stuff. And he was telling us about back in the day, maybe I don't know how many years ago, Cooper, where it was super elite and you had to
Uh,
have read everything and all that.
around 2007 to 2011, sort of, where
Yeah.
a little bit before Crunchyroll was starting to popularize watching stuff online, people wouldn't had to find their it was difficult to find anime. There was a set list of, oh, if you haven't watched Evangelion, if you haven't watched XYZ, then you're not a real anime fan.
Right, right,
And
right,
so
right,
a
Yeah.
lot of
right.
people getting into it who
There's
didn't
there's
grow up with
something
it on
about that, and I
TV.
think that's
Yeah.
our human nature is, we want to find something like a gem,
Yeah.
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it's ours and it's precious to us. and you want to share that with other people, right? So it's like, oh, I introduced you to this,
Mhm.
and it's the same thing with music. You'll hear a band and it'll become like your favorite band in college, and you're
Right.
like, oh wow, that's like underground, it's subversive, it's like
It's
I'll
it's
date myself. Some like finding REM, right, or U2 or something, and it was like
oh, yeah.
it's great, and then all of a sudden you start hearing it on the radio, and it's like, oh, U2, they so totally sold out. REM is just so.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the early REM, not the
Uh-huh.
late. It's,
Yeah.
Mm.
No,
and
yeah, like,
then it finally ends with I don't like REM anymore because
at
everybody's
all, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, at least I'm gonna call myself out a bit because I'm in the past, I've definitely said, "Oh, like, dub is not as good," and stuff like that, and all that, and, like, I think that I at least, and I know in general the community doesn't give enough credit to dub, especially the voice actors, because it's like you really need, especially for a show like Naruto that's so long running, you really need to know everything about your character, a lot of the context, and I don't know, you probably know a lot more about what you need, and that's actually one of the questions I was going to ask you in a bit, but like it's so much power, I guess, that the dubs have of bringing a lot of new people into the medium, and so many people watch that first, especially I remember, like, as a kid, that was like my main thing. Subtitles were too hard. As a little kid, it was too hard to keep track,
yeah, yeah.
and like
A
even
a
even
lot of
not
people
kids, like,
subtitles kind of turn people off. I know people that have
Mhm.
learned Japanese to
yeah,
watch anime. Just
Mhm.
like
yeah, of
taking a
course,
course in college to learn Japanese so that they can even be one step closer to it. But
yeah,
I will tell you this because now you guys are, sort of aficionados of anime.
Mm.
Um, there's good anime and there's bad anime. And I'll tell you, a lot
right.
of the anime stuff from the 80s and the early 90s, it's really bad. Like the sync is bad. Well, I'll tell you this too. The way the union, I'm in SAG, Screen Actors Guild,
Oh,
and the
okay.
way the union looks at it is so for example, if I was going to do an original animation, they have a rate for that, which is pretty good day rate to do, and they can only work you like 2 or 3 hours, and
Mm,
it's a pretty significant day rate, right? But if I'm doing anime dub, it's a lot less because the way the
oh,
union looks at it is that we're simply adding an English soundtrack to an already existing artistic piece. So that we are basically, how have you ever seen those movies where they've done them for, well, or even like closed captioning, or like
yeah,
they'll do them
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
blind, where it's just some guy saying,
uh-huh,
Superman walks into the room,
yeah.
Ben Affleck as Batman gives him a snarl, and they sort of
Mm.
explain. It's like so dry, it's so flat,
Mm,
and those even like as far as movies goes, like the 1950s Godzilla movies and stuff. We always made fun of them, or the kung fu movies, right? Like the voice doesn't seem to match what the guy's doing or what he's
right,
saying. It's
yeah,
just some
Yeah.
guy going, "Hey, you're the worst in town," uh, I'm gonna fight you now, and
yeah,
it doesn't quite add up. But if you look at like with Naruto, and I have to give credit to Studiopolis,
mm,
they really do a good job, and we sort of obsess about making that sync line up, and we obsess about having the voices match
of course,
the
yeah.
character. They
It's these
did a
little details
big
that matter
voice
so
search
much.
to find Naruto, and they got
Oh,
Miley, who's an old friend of mine,
yeah,
and she sounds a lot like the Japanese Naruto.
mhm,
Real like the real
Mhm.
voice match, very close. So it's they really went out of their way to make sure that they were really trying to give you the essence of what they were doing in Japan. And what's funny about that is, so you've got to have your character have the voice that you want to use,
right,
and you have to emote when things happen, when
mm,
things are sad or excited or
yeah.
Mm.
whatever, and you have to make it fit. you know
I
you
feel like
have
that would be the
exactly
hard part, right?
you
Like,
have exactly 2.5 seconds to convey this idea. And, as an actor, if you're in an original piece, the director says, "Okay, let's talk about the character. Asuma
uh-huh.
has just died. You're these are the lines, and we'd like you to." And you go, "Asuma has died," you know, and then they go, yeah, that's the line, but you need to pick that way up."
Mm. So
That's
do
what
they
we
not
have to
so
do.
So do they give you like, is it completely scripted? Like, is it all prepared ahead of time? That's what I would assume,
Oh
right?
yeah, oh yeah, and
Okay.
it's all
Okay.
timed out. They do it by time code,
Wow.
and then so basically you take the Japanese animation. You
Yeah.
basically are taking the what would be the subtitled, right?
Mm.
And and that's then the script writers take that and they look at it because now they have to make that sort of fit or get that idea out. And so they sort of translate it because otherwise it just sounds clunky.
Right.
You
Yeah. It
know, it
doesn't
doesn't
Yeah.
translate
quite
well.
work. Like for example, in there's also cultural things that have to be sort of adjusted for.
Mm.
Like in Japan, it would be I would be introduced as Nara Shikamaru, not
Mm.
Shikamaru Nara. Well, that's the way they do say it in Japanese. Like in the show,
Right.
it would be like, hey Shikamaru Nara. That's the way we say it, and then they would say, hey Nara Shikamaru.
Yeah,
Come over
exactly.
here.
It's the other way around. Yeah, they
Yeah.
start
Well,
with the
that
last
may
name.
not
So,
match up with the flaps. See?
oh yeah,
Oh,
that's
true.
true.
So we do a lot of in the booth. Like if we have pretty good writers, and the writers have changed throughout the years. For a while there, one of the guys came up to me and he said, "I hear your voice in my head. It makes it so easy to write because I have a pace and a rhythm, right?
Mm.
And in general, you can tell I talk pretty fast as a person.
Sure.
So they can kind of adjust that, and it's funny. Then you can tell when they've changed writers or we have a different writer because it'll be like, nope, you got to slow it way down,
Oh wow.
or you got to speed it up, or you got to, and so they do all these things, and you've probably noticed this because the way language works, they do a lot of what they call filler. So
Mm.
instead of saying I have to go to the store, it would be like I have to then possibly go to the store, you know.
Yeah.
And so we had a lot
Yeah.
of like that's and what that is my purpose to go to the store,
Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Where
Yeah,
oh, okay, that makes a lot of
I
sense
don't know if I'm
actually.
making a good example, but if you notice, we use a lot. We kind of say things that you wouldn't just say it. You'd say I have to go,
Yeah.
but that's too short. So you have to say, you know, I must go now. you know.
And then you have to say it with like the really strong, cool
Yeah,
emotion in
right,
your
right, right.
voice to make
Yeah,
it sound
exactly.
super official and yeah.
To make it
Oh,
very
that's awesome.
Shikamaru Nara.
Oh yeah, that. Oh my God,
I'm getting flashbacks to
it's
the show
beautiful.
now.
So
um,
there's a lot. So there's a lot to it. There's a lot of moving parts. It's very, as
yeah.
far as like the dub people go, I would say they're probably one of the more technical actors
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
in LA or Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's funny because we're on the bottom of the pay scale.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. I was gonna be like, for all the effort and technicalities and details you have to work through. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna ask you to obviously reveal any numbers, but like, how does it compare? I guess like, is it obviously it's livable, but I
Well,
mean, what is it like?
It's like anything else, right? Like,
Yeah,
Tom Hanks is getting top dollar. So even
of
if he's
course.
doing a recording session, he's not getting a SAG day rate, which is actually
Yeah.
pretty good.
Mm,
Um, uh, what we get is more of like an hourly rate, and
right.
it's a considerably lower. But
Mm.
then again, there aren't too many people that have been on a show for 15 years.
Yeah, that's
True.
true. That's quite the
750 episodes, and then I'm still going with Boruto. So it's
right.
like
Yeah.
a lot of people ended with Naruto Shippuden, and I'm still going. So I'm happy to go in every couple of weeks, throw down some lines, and for me, it's pretty right now with Boruto. It's pretty easy because I'm sort of right hand of the Hokage, so
Oh yeah.
I basically introduce a lot of the missions, and then at the end I wrap them up. How it went, what's going
Yeah.
on, and my character has always been through the entire series, Mr. Exposition. This is
Right.
what's really going on.
The strategy guy.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
which is great if they're like running through the woods and you don't see the mouth flap, but or like it's in my head, you
Uh,
know. Naruto's got to summon all his powers to fight this off. I don't think we can do this now. Ugh, I wish I had a plan, and that's all in your head. That's fine. But if it's on
yeah.
screen and your mouth is moving, and I'm saying paragraph after paragraph and then a lot of it's Japanese names, which I am not that good at.
Right. I mean, it's something you gotta learn.
I have to like write them out phonetically, you know.
Mm.
And then of course it's funny how like they don't stick, and they don't stick, and then all of a sudden they stick. Like I remember when the show started and they
Mhm.
said you're playing Shikamaru Nara, and I was like, thank goodness I don't have to talk to myself because I can't say that name.
And then now it's just, second nature. It's so easy for you. I mean,
Oh
750
yeah,
episodes later makes sense, but
yeah, right. It finally sinks in, but I'm not quick on the draw with that. It comes
yeah.
real slow. So anyway, so yeah,
That's
so with Japanese names, I have to in the booth have to write them out phonetically. So
Oh
it's
yeah. So and I guess you probably have like, you have like your script and your own notes on probably on there somewhere too.
yeah. I mean, in the old days, we used to have these big binders. They were all
Oh.
printed out, 3-ring binders, just huge, and they were like turn to page 784, and and then you could write in the margins, and that was actually kind of fun because the other actors would write little jokes and stuff in
Mm,
the margin,
yeah.
and but they got rid of those because now we do everything on iPads. So
Oh, yeah, okay, so it's all
which is
digital now.
tough because it's hard to write in the margins when you have an so I
Yeah,
have a
that's
little
true.
Mhm.
notepad that I keep right next to the stand next to the iPad, so that and then I make the screen really big so that I can
Mm,
then look at the notepad and the line at the same time. So little sort of tricks, but in the old
yeah.
days you could write it, you could scratch out the word like we're taking out these 2 words and we're adding in this one. You could write it right above it. Now I have to do that all in my head. Like I know what the new word is, but I have to remember where the cuts are.
Oh, right.
uh, I shouldn't
Oh yeah.
complain. It's like it's like a 10-word line. I just have to remember. I just have to remember not to say that this time. It is funny how kind of it reminds me of the uh, Anchorman. Where he would just read anything that was put in front of him.
Mm.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, that makes me wonder, how do you guys, like, go off the script a lot? Like, how does that kind of I feel like
No,
'cause
there's no room to go off the script.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
the only time we kind of do that is if the line is too long or it's too
Oh,
short,
yeah.
and we have to figure out how to make it work. So
Mm.
then every once in a while, I'll be able to say, "Hey, what if I said it this way?" And then they'll say, "Oh, that's good," or they'll say, "Get out of here. Let me think. You're just disturbing me."
Yeah.
and so then, and there has been a couple times where I've said, "That's kind of I don't know if Shikamaru would say it like that."
Oh, yeah, so it's
It,
like, you know the character
Oh.
so well at this point, you can sort of, like, modify it.
yeah, and there's a lot of things like I know with like Rock Lee, they early on they what they did was they didn't like won't or your. He has to
Oh,
say you are,
yeah.
will not.
Will not.
Like
Yeah, 'cause
Mhm.
that's so Rock
everything
Lee,
he
right?
says is very stilted.
Yeah.
And so as a style, they took all that stuff out. And that makes their job really hard when they have to
Oh.
make it fit. Because
Mm.
a lot of times if you watch my stuff, I say like gonna, I'm gonna go,
Yeah.
like gonna, it's like I'm
Mhm.
going to go would not fit. So
But it also depends on the character sometimes. Like, sometimes you want to like, Shikamaru would definitely say "gonna," but Rock
yeah,
Lee wouldn't, right? So
everything's relaxed with Shikamaru. Everything's relaxed. And the least amount of words to get an idea across, that
Right.
kind of thing.
And
Yeah.
and Shikamaru is such a cool, like, lax character, obviously a bit lazy sometimes, but, like, very, very relaxed and stuff. So, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I never really thought of it that deeply, though. Like, I don't know, like, I always thought, "Oh, well, how can you portray" it kinda makes you wonder, how can you portray the personality of the character and the emotion of the character just with the way you speak, right? Like, it's not just the voice, it's also the exact words you're saying, the way you say them and everything. Like, I feel like that's stuff that's overlooked. We don't think about that when we're watching it.
Yeah, and there's an easy trap to get into is to just, get into a rhythm and just kind of keep doing it the same
Mm,
way, and then so then everything kind of sounds the same all the
mm,
time. So trying to find where Shikamaru lives, but then giving him the ability to have high points and low points,
right.
and be able
Mhm.
to like I remember in when and I hope I'm not giving it away for anybody who hasn't seen the whole series, but when Asama, passes away, um, like I remember like getting my voice to crack and go up
Mm.
on that rather than doing his like, "Oh, Asama has died," and just stay down here. It was
Yeah,
more
of
like,
course.
"Asama has died." Like let yourself have that range, and that's
Mm.
a lot of that is directing. Though I have to say, we've had really
Okay.
good directors on the show. Mary Elizabeth.
Oh wow.
She was like one of the first ones. She really helped develop the character in the beginning.
Mm.
And then again, like I said, we've been doing it so long. I can, I can basically do him in my sleep. And recently, I've started doing. Are you guys familiar with Cameo?
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
I saw this on your Instagram story.
Yeah, it's brand new. I just started it like 2 weeks ago. There's a whole story behind that, but I started doing Cameo, and I realized I could basically just improv Shikamaru. I could do this whole interview as Shikamaru Nara now. Like I don't
So
have to think about
so
it.
so
Like
I'm actually not too familiar with Cameo. Is it basically just like a kind of like short video platform where you can interview people really quick or something like that? Essentially, you're making
no,
it like a
what it
cameo. Or...
is it's like let's say you want to your brother's having a birthday and he's a huge Naruto fan.
Oh.
You can go in there and then say, hey Tom, love your show, my brother's birthday's coming up, can you
Mm.
say happy birthday to him as Shikamaru Nara?
Oh wow.
And please give us a sort of an inspirational message. Or sometimes they write a full script, which is I mean it's great because you know what they want and you know what
Yeah.
to say. And on Instagram I get that a lot too, and every once I do it. There's, like I said, it's a long story. I don't want to give people the notion that that's what I do on Instagram because
Right.
now I'm getting so many requests to do it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where, hey, I look at it like 2 minutes a day. It's
Of
not.
course. Yeah. Like it's not your job. It's just an extra thing you're doing for fun, I guess, right?
Well, look, there's benefits to it. It's great, and the fans love it, and it's
That's the most
fun to
important
do.
thing. Yeah.
But it's a double-edged sword.
Mm.
Mhm.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's because right now, and it bugs me. I have a request box and it says 99 plus requests.
Oh
And then
wow.
I'll say, okay, I'm going to just take an hour and I'm going to try and knock out as many of these as I can. And I do that and I go back 64. Okay, great. And then I put it down for a while. I come back 99 plus. I'm like, no. The more I do, the worse it gets. And so then I had to basically join Cameo because it's like, if you really need something, I can do that because you get paid to do Cameo. So
Right.
Mhm.
it's like I kind of feel bad because I was doing it for free. But on the other hand, if I can just take 2 seconds and somebody says, "Oh man, you're my favorite," say what a drag, and I just hit that little record button. I go, whatever, what a drag, and then I can just move on. It's like
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that's
so quick
easy.
that it's easy for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now I have to go. Yeah, I'm not going to get to that for weeks.
Mm. Well, that kind of
If-
leads nicely into one of the topics then that we wanted to talk about.
if ever, because it's just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
now
it's so much stuff to do,
overwhelming.
right? And like I was always wondering, I mean, you mentioned earlier nowadays every few weeks you go in and do some some work for Boruto, but then it's like
Yeah.
at least maybe not so much now, but maybe for example during the the Naruto Shippuden series or something like that, like how busy were you? And then I guess I want to know more about like you outside of voice acting too. I mean, we're talking a lot about voice acting, that's great. We want to know so much about that, but it's like what is the rest of your life even like, right?
It's pretty boring, actually. Where to start? Well, I would say that for Naruto and Naruto Shippuden and
Mm,
Boruto, it's always about the
okay.
same. I go in maybe once a month,
Okay.
once every 3 weeks or something,
Right.
and they'll have like 4 or 5 episodes for me, which they usually they have to book you for a 2-hour session. That's
Mm,
no matter what. So what they do is they get enough stuff for you
yeah.
that it makes it worth their while to bring you in, right?
Right, because they're
And
not going to
they
pay
try
you
and
for like one line.
oh no, they do. That's the
Oh,
Really?
nice
really?
thing. Every once in a
Oh.
while, they need you to come in for one line, and you're like, yeah, because
Oh
other
wow,
than I
that's
have to
awesome.
drive there and do it, it's
Right.
but you're like, yeah, one line. I'm here for 5 minutes. It's great. Fantastic. Though that's like you go, I'm making money, and then other
Yeah, that's
days
a
you're
good
like,
bit.
we're gonna book you 3 days in a row, and no, because that means it's gonna be at least 7 hours of straight.
Oh yeah, okay.
That means they have a ton of stuff, and there's not
Right.
gonna be 1 minute where I'm not working. So it's
Mm,
those happened a lot with Shippuden quite a
mm.
bit because we had those big fight scenes and all that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff. The storylines that would just last for episode upon
And
episode upon
the
episode.
flashbacks that would happen for like 4
Oh,
episodes at a time
And the
every
yeah,
like 10
fillers
exactly.
episodes,
too.
right? Like
Exactly. So yeah, I guess you could say it has gotten a little better because, like I say, in Boruto, I don't I'm not one of the main characters anymore.
Yeah, not anymore.
I don't know if I was a main character before. I was like, but they did a lot more with because it's really Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, that and
Mm.
those were like the
But
main three.
Shikamaru was definitely among like the more
Yeah,
relevant
he
of the
was in
others, right? Like
one of the top tier. Yeah,
there you go. Yeah.
but there's like 26, different ninja characters because we had all
Yeah.
those squads and everything. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
and then they would just focus on. My dog might bark here because I saw someone. Oh, it was the
That's
post.
all good.
Amazon drop off. She didn't take the bait. That's good.
Amazing.
Anyway, yeah, we have to be guarded against these post office and delivery people. I tell you,
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they're dangerous.
she's chief of security. I don't know. I thought she was around here. Anyway, so what was I saying?
You're talking about how like there's like all the squads and everything. So
Yeah,
you're not
there's just a
always.
ton of characters.
Yeah.
Now, the beauty of Naruto, in my opinion, is if you look at that show, there's so many characters, and they do give them all a lot of screen time.
Mm.
But like Shikamaru, he's the too cool for school. He's not lazy. It's just he's so smart that he's
There you
figured out
go. Yeah.
the easiest way to get around everything. And we know guys like that. We went to school with guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like Rock Lee, the kid that's just all energy. He doesn't have that much talent, but boy, he's just going to keep trying. We know that guy. Right. We
That's
went to
true,
school
yeah.
with that guy. And the kid that's into bugs when you're in 6th grade, and the girl that's so shy and she doesn't know what to say. And it's like they have all these things that if you're a kid that was like Choji, a little heavy set or something,
Mm.
you go, oh wow, yeah, I get that kid, right? I
Mm.
understand who Choji is. That's me, And I think there's just a lot of sort of types of kids that are represented, and I think that's what the
100%.
big broad appeal of the show is. You might go, oh yeah, Ten is my favorite character, like or
Yeah.
Tamari, or oh, I love Gara. It's like, yeah, because
And
there's something in it for everybody. There's really a lot of different types of characters that kids can really relate to, and adults, I should say, because this show started 15 years ago.
right. Yeah.
Everybody's grown up now. You know what I mean? It's not.
But we're still watching it. So
Yeah,
Still watching.
there's 10-year-olds watching the old stuff on Netflix, and there's 30-year-olds. I had one on, I think it was on Instagram. Somebody said, "Hey, can you say hi for my mom? She just thinks you're the best." Your mom, it's like,
Yeah.
okay,
I know. I remember because like when I was watching Naruto and I was, I guess, old enough to kind of like understand what was actually going on. I remember I was probably like maybe 13 or something like that.
Yeah, that's like the
and
prime age. I think
yeah,
that's the
and,
target. Yeah.
and I feel like I relate, and I'm not just saying this because you're here. I promise. Like I did actually relate a lot to Shikamaru. Like I felt like I was doing really well in school. I felt like I didn't really have to try that hard sometimes. I
Yeah,
was
just do
kind of
whatever it takes
lazy.
to get
Yeah,
by.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just
I
get
was a little
by.
I was a little that way. I mean,
Yeah.
now my calculations were off. Let me just say,
Okay.
because in my opinion, I always thought like, you get a C, that's average. So I will do the least amount of work to get a C,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
And then I went, I should have really been doing like a B.
Yeah, maybe a B or something. Yeah, somewhere closer there.
Because when I wanted to go to college, they were saying, you should think of maybe culinary school or a trade. Because I just didn't think high school was important, and
Right.
boy, was I wrong. So I had to make up for that, and then of course, it's sort of like Shikamaru and his kid.
Mm,
You think Shikadai, he thinks like is not very ambitious, and so he doesn't think he's
right.
that smart or anything. And it's like you're falling into the same trap, Shikamaru. That was
Yeah.
you. And
Yep.
I think like my parents my dad always used to say like, well, you can always be a salesman. You got a good personality.
Yeah, the classic salesman, I guess.
Yeah, because they're looking at my grades, right?
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and
I mean,
my grades were not reflective of what I could do. Like when
yeah.
I got
I mean,
into college.
yeah. To be fair, grades are not really. It's kind of an almost outdated way
I
to
know.
look
It's,
at.
when I got into college, I made the dean's list
Yeah.
because
There
I
you go.
finally
Like.
felt like I was finally doing something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So so it came a lot. And when you're really pursuing the stuff you want to do, you work a lot harder, and you're just
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Hmm.
this is my thing. This is what I want to do. Even the sort of general courses in college, not the theater class. Obviously, I did good in theater and choir
Mm,
and just all that kind of stuff.
mm,
But when it came to like history and English and all that kind of stuff, I
right.
all of a sudden I kind of stood up because it's like I need this to get to here, so I'm going to do this and I'm going to try and do
Yeah,
it
you have a
well.
goal, you have something to
Hmm.
work
Yeah,
towards that you know you
right,
have to
right.
do.
Like in high school, it was sort of like just get through it.
Right. That's kind of the mindset that, we're kind of told to go into high school. It's like just try and figure something out for yourself, I guess.
Yeah. If there's any kids listening, really apply. Your life will be so much easier if you really start that attitude, not in college, but started in high school. Like
Wise words, very
if you
wise.
Some
can
good advice.
succeed really well in high school, then you can really have a lot more choices in college. So that was never. I don't know. I wish somebody would have pulled me aside and said, "Hey,
Mm,
this is what you can do if you go this. If you work a little harder right now instead of
mm.
wait." You know. So, but anyway,
Yeah,
that's
I
life.
think, but I think, like on that note, because I think that's a pretty important thing to mention. Like, I think the internet has helped a lot with stuff like that. People tend to find, because usually, some people just don't even know what they like to do. They might have a pastime, but they spend a lot of time sort of just lazing around, as children, trying to figure out kind of what they want to do when they're older or stuff like that. And a lot of
Right.
people have big dreams. Oh, I want to be a police officer. Oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. Right. But then, a lot of that stuff doesn't stick around when you get older. I feel like having the internet, hearing, people like Tom Gibbous say on the internet, hey, you should, try a little harder in high school. It will pay off, stuff like that. But then also the fact that there's a lot more opportunities for people to find things and connect with other people and stuff like that, just like we're doing right now.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
like this helps.
Yeah,
I think it's really helpful for helping, younger people figure out kind of what they like and what some stuff that they're passionate about.
yeah, it's really wide open. Boy, if you're interested in something, you can really pursue it and find it. That's one of the miracles of living in the age that we live in. Going, just being able to go online and
Mm,
find the things that you like, and really, you know,
right.
just
Hmm.
I can't even imagine if I had a computer like this when I was in college. Just writing a history paper would have been so much easier to do a little research
Of
and not have
course.
to go find the book and figure it
Right.
out. It's like, wow, so much easier now. But
Yeah. I guess that like brings a question like how did you know you wanted to do voice acting? How did you kind of get into it in the
I was
first place? Like what
about
was
to
your
ask.
inspiration, I guess? Were you
well,
about
my
to say
whole
that?
my whole
Yeah.
thing is I always wanted to be an actor. I
Okay.
was the little kid that would sing for grandma.
Mm.
you know I
Yeah, yeah.
I do the Wizard of Oz and cast all the characters of my family when I was like 5, and
Uh-huh.
you say this, Dad, like that kind of thing.
Mm.
And uh, I was just sort of always that kid, sort of performing and very comical and goofy, and uh, so I always wanted to pursue theater. And then when I was in school, I would do like in junior high, I did plays and stuff. And then I started doing
Yeah.
community theater while I was in like junior high, because they always need kids for stuff. And and then in high school, I continued to do theater, did a lot of musicals and straight plays and stuff. And I always thought comedy was my wheelhouse. That was my
Oh
thing.
yeah.
Hmm.
And so I went to college and I went for theater. My degree is in acting directing,
Okay.
and then I pursued. Well, it's funny. I would say like junior high, maybe high school. I always wanted to be an actor. I thought, oh, that'd be the cool job to have.
Mm.
And but I didn't know any actors. Nobody in our neighborhood. I grew up in Minnesota in a
Okay.
suburb out of St. Paul, outside of St. Paul, and
Okay.
and it's like we didn't know anybody. That's not a real job. Nobody.
Yeah, it's a classic. Yeah, of course.
So
It's
my
a
my
typical
next
response.
my next move, I was going to be a forest ranger.
Oh,
So,
Oh.
and
okay.
I actually kind of pursued that for quite a while. And I did a thing like we had this naturalist group that was at the local nature center, and I was part of that. And then I was like teaching kids and taking them out on camping stuff. And then we would go on like winter survival hikes and stuff like
Oh.
that. I slept in an igloo.
Oh,
Um,
that's awesome.
yeah, it's miserable.
We're Canadian. We haven't even done that.
Oh, Canadian. Oh, you're like the neighbor to the north there. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Only thing different between Thunder Bay and International Falls is the money. Got those
Yeah.
loonies. We got those dollars.
The loonies and the toonies.
Yeah. So and I've been to Canada a couple
Yeah.
of times. I actually did a national tour of a show called Raggedy Ann and Andy.
Oh,
Mm.
Went to Thunder Bay. Went to
okay, that's awesome.
yeah. We went to Toronto.
Yeah, I mean
Mhm.
that's the main. Anyone who goes to Canada, I mean, if
You
you're
got
not in Toronto or
Vancouver and Toronto.
Vancouver,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
why are you here?
Yeah, I love Canada, and I find it to be very much like Minnesota, and the people are
Oh
very
yeah.
much like Minnesotans.
Oh, that's good.
I
I mean,
think,
I've
but
never been there,
ho-
but
hopefully you don't take that as an insult. But
oh no, no, I'm definitely not going to take that as an insult. I mean, we
after
have you here, so.
Everybody thinks everybody in Minnesota is a moron.
Mm, yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I guess like so. Yeah, it makes sense. So you did Forest Ranger, slept in an igloo. It was
Yeah.
miserable.
And then I realized that I found out somebody told me that the Forest Service only hires like 2 people a year, and I was like,
Oh,
what?
wow. Okay.
And it's
Ooh.
like, yeah, and you have to have a lot of math. I was like,
Oh.
really, for forestry? And it's like, oh yeah, because they're all about like the number of herds and
Oh.
seeds. You get so many seeds from a seedling, and if we're gonna reforestate this area, oh my gosh. And I was
Oh,
like,
wow,
I'm
okay.
horrible at math. I don't want to do math. So I was like, I might as well be. They hire 2 people a year. I might as well be an actor. I got a better shot.
Yeah.
Better
Yeah.
shot doing that. And then, like my dad always said, you can always do sales. So, so I went to college. I did acting. Out of
Mhm.
there, I did an internship at this place called the Children's Theater Company out of
Oh, okay.
Minneapolis. So they're like Tony Award winning regional theater. And then I worked
Mm.
the Guthrie in Minneapolis, which is a huge theater. And I worked at this place called Dudley Riggs Brave New Workshop in Minneapolis. And they were like the premier comedy club. Have you heard of Second City in Chicago?
No,
No,
I
I
haven't.
don't think so.
Have you heard of Second City Television with Eugene Levy?
Actually, I think
That
I
was out of
have.
I might
Toronto.
have.
And anyway, a comedian thing. They're a year older than Second City in Chicago, but
All
they
right.
were in Minneapolis. So it was like the
Mm.
Minneapolis version. They did improv and sketch comedy.
Okay, yeah.
And so I did that for like 3 years, and that was great because then when I started working there, they started sending me out for commercials, and I started
Mm.
doing auditioning for TV shows and a couple movies and stuff like that. And I did it. I did a national tour. I think of Raggedy Ann and Andy, and then
Oh yeah.
I did.
Mhm.
So I did all sorts of stuff, and I just was working here and there and everywhere.
Mhm.
And then after I kind of put enough stuff together on my resume, I went out to LA and tried to do it there. And I've been, I've done a couple movies, and I've done some commercials, and I've done some uh, uh, TV shows and stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like, and then voiceover just sort of was the
Yeah.
thing that
How,
sort of
how did you sort of
hit.
just end up in anime? Because like voiceover obviously is, I mean, it's similar, but
It's a little
it's
different from
completely
acting, right?
yeah.
So
From acting, it's still different.
It, you use all this. I would say most actors have all the same sort of
The skill set, I
tools
guess.
in your
Yeah.
toolbox.
Mm.
It is a little different. It's actually easier because you don't have to
Oh,
memorize
okay.
your lines, in a
Fair
lot
enough.
of ways.
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Not everybody can do it though. It is a unique thing. I've seen people that are really good actors that have
Mm.
gone in and they just go, yeah, that's not for me, and because I think it is one of those things that everybody thinks they can do. Now, when I started back in my day, when we started doing this, so when I did it, well, I'll tell you the whole story. I'll try
Sure.
and make it quick. So I have friends that were out here that were actors. They
Mm.
all from Minnesota and stuff. We all kind of knew each other. And one of their friends, a friend of a friend, is a guy by the name of Jeff Nimoy.
Okay.
You might have heard this name. He was one of the first directors on Naruto. but he also did Digimon. He's like a
Oh, yeah.
writer, director, producer in sort of the anime world. So,
Mhm.
and Jeff was a friend of mine, and I
Yeah.
met him at a party, and I said, "Oh, you know, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I do do." He was doing Digimon at the time. He's like,
Mm.
"Oh, I do Digimon," and I said,
Right.
"Oh wow, really? You do cartoons? Oh, that's crazy. I've heard of that. That's." I said, "How would I go about to audition?" He goes, "Have you ever done dubbing before?" I said, "No," and he's like, "Yeah, I can't really use you."
Wow.
And he goes, I go, well, how do I get experience doing it? And he's like, I don't know, but I only work with people that know how to do it. So I was like,
It's like the
oh,
classic 3 years of experience for the entry level position, you know? It's
Yeah.
like
yeah. And I'm like, well, can I at least try an audition? He's like, no, I mean, taking new people, then you got to train them. He goes, it's so much trouble that it's worth. I need people that can just work and do it, and we
mm,
can. And I was like, oh man. So every time I saw him at a party, I was like, hey, Jeff, just let me audition. Whatever, I'll give me a couple lines so I can kind of get in there
right.
and
Right.
he'd be like, no, not really. And, he did some comedy too. So I'd give him crap, we would go back and forth. And, so then Digimon the movie came. I don't know if
Mm,
you remember that. And,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and this friend of mine that had introduced me to Jeff had sort of mentioned to me, "Oh yeah, I'm going to go audition for Digimon the movie." I said, "Wait a minute, you don't have any dubbing experience. You don't have any voiceover experience. How
mm.
are you going in?" He's like, "Oh yeah, he's bringing in a bunch of us." And I was like, "What?" So I called him up and I go, "Hey, Nimoy, you're bringing in." I said, "Can I audition for Digimon the movie?" And he's like, "I really don't want to be bringing in people
Okay.
that." And I was like, "Come on, man." I said, "I know you're bringing in this
Yeah.
person and this
Yeah.
person." He's like, "Fine, I will bring you in." So, and he's the producer and director of this thing at this point. You know what I mean? He doesn't want
Yeah.
nothing to do with me. And then of course, there's other producers. There's the people from, I think it was Saban that produced that. They were there. So I
Okay.
go in there and I do the audition, and they're like, "Oh, that's great. Now can we try this?" And I did that, did that. And then they're like, "Oh, fantastic." And then they were like, "Hey, so Tom, we just got some questions." And I said, "Sure." And and they said, "Have you ever done dubbing before?" And I said, "Well, to tell you the truth, I have not."
Okay.
And they're like, "Oh, uh." So
Uh-oh.
they're like, "You know what? We can't take you for this project because this thing we're really under the gun to get it done. There
Mm,
was one role we thought you'd be great at, but we really can't take a risk on that. However, we'll keep you in mind for Digimon the series. We might be able to work you in, and then once you get some reps in, then the next project comes down the line. We'd really love to use you." And I was like,
okay.
"Great, keep me in mind." So next thing I know, I do like 3 episodes of Digimon, and Jeff Nimoy was the director, and he
Oh,
had to get me up to speed. And back in those days, that was like 2000, I want to say, there was no Pro Tools. I don't know if you know what that is, but Pro Tools is a computer device so that when you
okay.
record, you can slide it to the left or slide it to the right, make the lips match up. You can slow it down or speed it up. The sound. You can raise the pitch, lower the pitch. You can do a lot of
Mhm.
stuff with it.
Okay, yeah. So all the tools you need really to make it easier for
Make it
recording and
fit.
yeah.
Yeah,
Right, there you go.
that did not exist.
Oh, wow,
Okay.
okay.
So I go in, and it's like, this line has to be said in 2 seconds,
Mm,
exactly 2 seconds. And at that point, it really was a skill. Like, it was like a craftsman. And how they would do that is, if you could do 30 lines an hour, you were good. So they needed to get you up to speed where you could get 30 loops, is what they call it, 30 loops an hour done. And if you could
wow.
get it, I think it was 30, might have been less than that actually. But no, it might have been 15. uh I don't know. Anyway, but whatever the number was, it was like, say it was 30.
Yeah.
And it's tough to do. There was a lot of people couldn't do it. Otherwise, it's just not worth their time to keep going, because
Mm,
you'd have to repeat the line until it fit. You'd have,
right, so they would just keep doing it until you got it perfectly, kind of like trying to get it perfectly to beat almost like of a song.
Yeah, it had to fit in the thing, and they were like obsessive compulsive about making
Wow.
the flaps work and everything.
Yeah.
And it was
Mhm.
just painstakingly slow. Like you're just
Mm.
like say it again, quicker, 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 quick. No, you said it exactly the same way at the same speed.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna
Oh,
kill myself.
jeez.
And so anyway, got through that. I got through sort of the training part of it,
Mm.
which was on Digimon, and I had to learn it the hard old school way to do it.
Yeah.
So then Saban called up and they said, "Hey, we'd like you to come in for this show called Shinzo. It's 30 episodes.
Mm.
We'd like you to read for the lead character."
Wow.
And I
Ooh.
said, "Great." So I went in, I read, and I got the part. And they said, "Here's how we're going to do this. Since you're sort of a newbie, you've only
Mm.
got a couple episodes of Digimon under your belt. Um, we're going to give you 3 episodes. If you're not up to speed in 3 episodes, we'll get somebody else. We're not going to waste our
Right.
time." I was
Mm.
like, holy crap. Now the
That's
pressure's really
stressful.
on.
Yeah.
So they put me together with this director who's really awesome. His name's Michael Sorich. He's the
Mm.
funniest guy you'll ever meet. He's just, and as far as somebody who can train you to do it, he's freaking awesome. And he's just done a ton of stuff. And he's a great actor, real funny guy, real fun to be around.
Mm.
Anyway, the negative about Michael, he's a great guy, is that he'd like to tell stories in the booth and he'd like to do impersonations and stuff,
Mm.
and which is great, but I'm trying to get 30 loops per hour. And if you keep talking, that's 15 minutes of storytelling time where I'm
Right.
just like, that's great, that's funny, oh, that's funny. And going, wait a minute, that's cutting into my loop time because they're going to
Yeah.
think I can't do this, when it
Yeah.
was not necessarily that I couldn't do it. It's just that you kept talking the whole time, and we're having a great old time. But it's we got to make sure we get the work done. And but
The
he's one
story
of those
started to sound
guys.
a lot like a filler episode all of a sudden in Naruto.
Yeah, he's got so many stories, and he's such a funny guy.
Yeah.
He loves it when he has an audience of one. He doesn't
Mm.
care, and he's just gonna. so
Yeah.
anyway, I learned a lot from him, and actually, what got to the 3rd episode, they called me back, and I was just like they never said I had the job. It's just I went in
Mhm.
for episode 4, episode 5, episode 6.
Oh, wow, okay.
Oh,
So
I
they
Oh,
just
jeez.
didn't tell you that you didn't have the job.
yeah, exactly. Well, let me tell you this: 90% of everything you do in the acting world,
Yeah.
they don't tell you. So, like, you hear
Wow.
these stories
Oh,
about
jeez.
rejection in Hollywood. You don't get rejected in Hollywood. They just don't call you back. Nobody calls
Mm.
you up and says, "Hey, you didn't get the part, and here's why." That's why I'm always suspicious of these uh, people that have stories about horror stories about.
Oh,
They said I
yeah.
could have the part if I lost 15 pounds. No, they
Mm.
didn't. They just didn't hire you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I guess that makes a lot of sense. Well, that's kind of like I guess you learn probably as you gain experience in that field, but like wouldn't you, if they don't give you, a follow-up or anything like that, like wouldn't you just kind of just be waiting for a while, just like a sitting duck or
No,
something?
well,
Like,
yeah, it's really annoying, but the way to audition is you just have to audition for the sake of auditioning. And you
mm,
go in and you try and do the best you can with
mm,
whatever script they give you and whatever information you have, and you do it. And with the minute you walk out that door, just assume you're never going to hear from them, because that's probably what's going to happen.
oh,
They
okay.
Mm.
Wow.
If you get cast, it's like really, it's like a surprise. It's
Yeah.
they'll call in like 5,000 people for a role, and you're just like,
Mhm.
well, who knows? You're just like, but you might as well just assume that you're not going to get it. Not that you have that attitude, but just
Yeah,
the minute you walk out that door, don't beat yourself up. Like a little self analyzation, like, oh, I
of
should have done
course, yeah.
this. I asked a stupid question. You know what? I really need to stick to the script, or
Mm,
don't make too much chit chat. I was probably talking. Those are all good to kind of check yourself, but at a certain point, you just got to let it go. Just
mm.
let it go,
And I guess you
because
just keep seeking opportunities, right? Like you just
yeah,
have to find a gig at
Mhm.
some point.
and it's hard because like I went out. I auditioned for Everybody Loves Raymond
Oh, yeah.
when it was a pilot,
Mm.
and it was just called the Untitled Ray Romano pilot. So I
Oh,
have no
okay.
idea. And I at that time I didn't even know who Ray Romano was. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, he's a comedian, all right. And this is before, you can't just go look him up on the internet. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, we
so
have that privilege today.
I auditioned for his best friend, right?
Mm.
And I went back like 3 times. And I was like, "Oh, this could be it. This
Mm.
was, I've been in Hollywood for 2 years and I'm going to get on a sitcom and, this is going to be great." And then I never heard anything.
Oh,
Well, when I read the story, here how it worked was Ray lived in an apartment building with his wife and kids, and
yeah.
then his parents lived across the hall. And then downstairs, I was his best friend, but I lived with my mother. So
Okay.
I was always up there going, "Hey, come on, let's go shoot some pool or get a slice of pizza or something." And he'd be like, "No, I got the kids." And I go, "Hey, that's the great thing about having your ma live right next door, right?" And I did a New York thing. It was like, I go,
Yeah.
"That is the built-in babysitter. Like, come on, let's go." Well, what they did was they moved him out to the suburbs. The parents lived across the street. His big brother was kind of then became, because it wasn't like I
Mm.
was the friend who could just kind of come in
Yeah.
and be like, "Hey, Ray, we're gonna go play golf. Let's go." So I just got cut right out, and
Oh, wow.
we didn't shoot anything. I just, like I said, I just went to the callback like 3 times. But I'm telling you, in my head, I'm going, "I'm gonna get on a sitcom,"
Yeah. Yeah, of course, 'cause it feels promising. I mean, 3
And then it
times.
turns out to be Everybody Loves Raymond. Do you know how rich I would be right now if that would? But
Well,
that's how it goes, right? I mean,
yeah,
you
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 can't win
you
them all, I
go.
guess.
I auditioned for The Office.
Oh,
Oh,
And
really?
wow.
I had
Really?
seen the original. This was for the pilot.
Yeah.
I'd watched The British Office, so
Mm.
I was like, I knew exactly what it was. I went in and I auditioned, and they had me audition for the part of Gareth, which is the Dwight part, right, in
Yeah.
the American series.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
I did it, and I played it really kind of deadpan and serious,
Mm.
and just was saying all these kind of crazy things about gutting a deer and whatever it was.
Mhm.
And the casting director literally gave me a hug. She goes, "You have no idea. Everybody plays this too big. They're playing it way over the top." And I said, "Well, I'm in love with the British Office. I think it's a freaking great show. It's just so
Yeah.
subtle." And she's like, "Yeah, you have no idea how many people screw this up." And then she goes, "That being said, I don't really see you as the Dwight character." And well, having watched the British Office, the character would have been Tim, which I think it was Tim, which is really Jim. But
Oh,
here they
okay.
went with kind of a better looking, taller guy. I'm a short, squat, heavy set. So uh, I was more like, what's his name, Martin Freeman. I mean,
Mm.
sort of a smaller guy. He's not. I'm chubby. He's not chubby, but it could have worked.
Yeah.
But in the American version, they didn't want that. They wanted Jim to be sort of
Right.
a leading man,
Mm.
and so like attitude wise, I think I was more of a Jim, sarcastic, wisecracking,
Yeah.
but it
Mhm.
didn't pan. And then I was like, so the show gets on the air, and I go, they really love my audition, so that's fine because they're gonna have a ton of characters and little characters and all that.
Yeah.
They never called me back. Nothing. Just
Yeah,
didn't.
like, you would think maybe they would just put you in as, like, one of the small characters or
Yeah, or one of
maybe
the
even
guys
just
in the
one.
warehouse,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
or end up being Kevin, or being, you know, uh, any of the guys, other people in the office. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And it just didn't. It's funny. It is like that. It's just like they're done with you, and then
Yeah.
it doesn't translate. It's not like, oh, let's bring him back for something else. It's like,
I guess it's, like,
sometimes
kinda.
it works, but most of the time they're moving on.
Yeah,
They've
it's
got
kind of
their
just like
cast.
fast, 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 fast. We need to put this out. We don't have time. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
that's Hollywood, right?
you just hope somebody remembers you, and
Mhm.
it's like that's just so yeah. I had a lot of uh if that would have if that would have went right instead of left, that would have changed the whole direction of my life. But it is what it is, and that's the sort of I think there's a lot of really great actors out here that
Mm.
just didn't either get a break or didn't quite get the thing. And
Because all you
you know
need is that one break, right? Like, it's just
yeah,
you just need one person to give you the chance, and then once you get the chance, I mean, you had the 3, we'll cast you for 3 episodes, and if it doesn't work kind of thing, like,
yeah, exactly.
and
Well,
that
that
worked
that
out.
seemed to work out,
Yeah.
even though they would probably say I tried everything I could to get fired from that job. I mean, as far as like, come on, let's get up to speed. We're taking too much time, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because
Yeah.
as you can tell, I'm chatty too.
Sure, yeah, so I guess when the whole mentality is go, 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 I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
I don't think when I said everything to get fired, it's not like I was doing anything like stealing from the
Oh,
company
yeah,
or,
of course.
being a jerk or anything like
Yeah.
that. I really try to be sort of, here's the big trick on acting. If you get the job, show up on time, be
Mm.
polite, please and thank you, be nice to everybody, and stay out of the way.
There's your
Yeah,
advice for aspiring
yeah.
actors, I guess, then.
Well, it's funny because it's amazing to me how many actors aren't that.
Yeah. Maybe they
You
have a bit
know,
of an ego, especially if
yeah.
they get a bit lucky or something.
But I also think there's a reason that they act that way, and that's because a lot of people coming up get treated like dirt.
Mm.
And
Mm.
You're too
and
nice.
and so what happens is when you're treated like dirt, and they get to you when they get to you, or you have to be the one that has to stay late and on
Right.
set, or standing in the rain for 12 hours while they set up the shot,
Mm.
and then you get your chance to be the star who gets to be in their trailer. You're like, I had to wait, so they should have to wait. And it just sort of, I guess that would be the thing. Maybe I'm being too nice, but I also
Mm.
feel like there's a thing about, if you don't earn it, like if it's given to you or if it happens too easy,
Yeah.
I don't think you appreciate it. You know,
That's fair, yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and I think that then therefore you have this sort of like, well, I just decided to be an actor, and then I got on this big series, and I was in Hollywood for 2 months, and so now I want more money, and I want to. Like, dude, do you realize how lucky you are? Do you realize what just
Yeah.
happened? You won the lottery, and now you're saying you want to get more. It's like,
It's like
so that's
it's like the
frustrating to watch too. You watch people
yeah.
get interviewed on the Tonight Show or something, and they're just saying like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I thought maybe I'll try acting, and then I got on this like Game of Thrones thing, and I don't even know what it was, and I was like,
It was pretty cool.
I just want to kill you right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like just because you work hard, it doesn't mean you're gonna, it's not like all the people that do all the right things will end up with the best,
Yeah,
like the
that's true.
best
Although
outcome.
you want to say, look, if you're talented and you're prepared, that's your best shot of
Yeah,
getting anything.
that's
Now
still the best thing you can do.
you're going to turn it into something. I mean, I feel like I've turned it into something. I've got a little voice
Definitely.
career. I've got a little, I've got little things going here and there. It certainly didn't go the way I planned.
Mm.
However, if I think if you got a little bit of talent, and boy, I'll tell you, drive gets you. I wish I had a little more Rock Lee in me. Like
I think we
I've
all
got too
do.
much Shikamaru in me. That's my problem. But then there's people that just are all go, all energy, all
Yeah,
drive, but there's no talent. I mean, I guess in a way
right.
that's Rock Lee too. Like
Yeah, in a sense,
he
it is
doesn't have
him.
any jutsu. He doesn't have any. He's just got his fists, and he just tries harder than everybody else. But
Yeah, and
good
you
for
get a lot of
him.
respect. Yeah, you get a lot of respect for people like that too because they're working harder than everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it pays if you want to stick with it. It pays off.
Mm.
So and then we all know, like, there's just Hollywood's full of actors that are horrible, and you
Yeah.
go, how did that person get a job? And it's like, well, they're good looking or they're whatever, but so it's not it's you just hope you're at the right place at the right time with the right
Mm.
people, and that's the stuff you can't control. And so since you can't control it, you just kind of gotta try. Although I gotta say, these days, as you guys probably know, if
Mm.
you're an up and coming aspiring actor, you have a film studio in your pocket, and
Yep.
it's called your phone.
Mhm.
And I mean, we've got these people that are doing YouTube stuff, and they're doing TikToks, and
Yeah.
they're just making bank. They're doing great. And you go, well, what is it? What are they doing? I'm puzzled by the whole thing. But on the other hand, I'm like, you go, like,
Yeah.
you make that $1 million. You go ahead. I don't know what you're doing, but I went to, college and studied acting for 4 years. And I went out there and, did tours in the middle of nowhere and wore silly costumes, and you just go in your backyard and go, I'm in Paris, France.
Yeah, no, you don't even have to. Even have to really make it to Hollywood to sort of be part of that movement. Acting used to be really, at least from what it sounds like. I mean, I guess you would know, but acting used to sound like a lot like if you've made it to Hollywood, that's when you've really made it. And now it's like, well, if you have 2 million subscribers on YouTube by doing something, some
Well, I tell
acting
you,
or
yeah, it's all connected now too. Because
Yeah.
like getting auditions
Hmm.
and stuff, they're like, how many Insta followers do you have?
You have a whole portfolio behind you if you have an internet presence.
Yeah,
True.
because they sort of, I think people give the internet way and social media way too much credit.
100%.
We
I
need
think I
to
would
back
agree.
off that right now because and it affects everything. If I see another news story where they go, Twitter is a buzz because who cares? Twitter
Mm,
is a bunch of crazy people. You know what I mean? In the old days,
yeah.
you'd have to sit at get a get a piece of paper and write down, dear producers of $6 Million Man, the TV series. I do not like the way Bigfoot has been portrayed, and like they would have to write the letter, they'd have to fold the letter, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, find the address, go to the library to find the address, go to the post office, mail in that letter, and then
Wow.
they might get 20 negative letters or something. Those were people that were really motivated to say how much
Yeah.
they didn't like a show. And and they basically would say, well, sorry, it's who,
You would only get the letters from the people who either really love or really hate the show, right? So
yeah, and then you go,
Yeah.
so that's a kook, right? So
yeah, it's just it's an
everybody,
outlier.
not everybody, but most people, if you're in your underwear and you're looking at a thing and go, I am outraged about that, you're not outraged. If you were outraged, you would write a letter, you'd get a stamp. It takes a lot of work, but when you're sitting there
Yeah.
and it's all right there in front of you and you're basically anonymous and you can just, you know, be a hater just to be a hater, like,
That's true.
great.
We were talking earlier, like I mentioned earlier, how like the internet, has opened a lot of opportunity for young people and also not young people, like just everyone really to pursue passions of theirs and stuff like that. But at the same time, yeah, there's definitely the big drawback where you end up with, there isn't really any way to govern the internet. There's all the things about hate. Social media is kind of a real mess sometimes, and it's just difficult to manage. And
Well, I
pe-
think what it is it's so new. We just have to not give it credit,
mm,
right?
Mm.
We could say, on Twitter they're saying this, and it's like, yeah, you know, it used to be every town had one nut, that would
mm,
say, you don't need to pay taxes. It's unconstitutional for you to pay taxes. And you
yeah,
and you'd be like, yeah, okay, you don't pay your taxes, fine. You just keep moving. And now we're like, there's 20 nuts that do that and they're on social media, and it
mm.
seems like there's 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 because it seems like it's amplified.
Yeah, the
It's
vocal
really not.
minority is a big theme on social media,
it's
so
it's that one kook that every town has, and
yeah.
somehow we gave that person a megaphone, and it's like, so we don't necessarily need to take the megaphone away from that person, but we do need to go, oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, we need to learn when we actually have to listen to them, you know?
That's nothing. I can
Yeah.
It goes in one ear out the other. That's interesting. Interesting that you feel that way. Okay, great. But
Mm,
I'm moving
Mhm.
on, and it's kind of the responsibility falls back on us. So,
mm.
and
It's
do
true.
your research and figure out what's going on. Although, you know, uh, anyway, it's a tool and it can be dangerous. It's basically as much as we let it,
Yeah.
and and that's the thing with the bullying and stuff. It's just like, hey, it doesn't, just ignore it. If it bothers you, shut your phone. And I know that's easier said than done. Don't listen to it. Don't
Mm.
listen to those negative voices. Just put on a good show like Naruto and enjoy yourself and get positive messages about kids doing positive things. Well, it's a very violent show, but but
And listen
hey,
to the
they love
beautiful
each
voice
other,
of
and
Shikamaru Nara.
it's about loyalty, and it's about helping each other and sticking together as friends and trying to do
100%.
for the greater
Mhm.
good. They're the heroes of the
Amazing
story.
messages. Amazing
Yeah,
messages in
in
that
that,
show.
again, it depends on if you want to focus on the fact that it's violent, then that's what you're going to get out of it. If you focus on the fact that, like, Naruto is Sasuke's best friend and he will not let him go down this path, even if it takes 20 years, I'm going to turn this guy around.
Mhm.
And he did it. He did it.
Yeah.
So it's it's pretty cool in
Yeah,
that way.
I mean, Naruto is just amazing. Like my first anime, not only that, but also just the message, the stories, all the yeah, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it because it's like, wow, that's powerful. Especially, I guess one thing I want to ask you too is obviously you had to become really familiar with your character and with the show and stuff like that. But like, do you actually watch the show? Do you watch Naruto?
I've watched some of the show, but for
Okay,
the most part, which is kind of interesting because I know what my character knows,
of course.
which is
Mhm.
kind of
So
good.
it's kind of like
So,
good and bad sometimes, I guess, because it's
well,
maybe
no, but it's
spoilers
like real
too. No?
life, right? Like,
Oh,
uh,
true.
if I asked you about Itachi, you'd be like, I don't know, I've never met Itachi. You know, like, well, I don't watch the show. I just know that
Yeah,
he's a jerk that killed the whole Uchiha clan.
yeah,
And then
Mhm.
I know that he got killed, but he helped turn Sasuke around, so
right.
maybe he's not all that bad. But that's what Shikamaru would know, right? There's more to
That's
Itachi,
true. I guess
right?
you can see layers that, the average first time watcher, not too deep thinker would not see, right? Like,
Well, what I'm trying to say is I actually have a very narrow focus because I only know what Shikamaru knows,
oh, okay, yeah,
right?
so it's kind of
Mhm.
the
But
opposite,
that's
actually.
that's like you living your life, right?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know
yeah, okay.
your
That's like
you
a
know
unique
your aunts and
experience,
uncles.
actually.
I don't know your aunts and uncles. I might
Yeah,
read a story about your aunts and uncles, but you know them. You lived it, right? So
yeah,
that's your story. Like, so people ask me about other characters that I never had contact with. I don't know them. I
mm,
don't know what their story was. See what I'm saying? I
yeah,
only know, which is good in a way because I only have Shikamaru's perspective on everything, which means
Mm.
that's not everybody's perspective. Sasuke's perspective is obviously different, and so is Naruto, right? Which is
yeah,
kind of cool in a way because then I think it makes you more three dimensional because I don't know all the things that Sasuke knows, and I don't know all
yeah.
the things Naruto knows. I just know what Shikamaru knows.
Yeah, so you're essentially going into that show the same way Shikamaru lives that
Yeah.
show in a way, yeah.
What I know about the Akatsuki
Yeah,
is I killed Hidan and his buddy. I didn't
yeah,
kill him.
Mhm.
I neutralized him. I
yeah, you
defeated. Like, so then
trapped him
when people
forever.
go, well, what about this person or that person? It's like, well, I didn't have anything to do with that battle. I'd have to ask whoever was in that battle.
Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, so it's actually wow,
Oh.
it's a lot more like, I guess, straightforward and logical than you might even think. Like,
Yeah,
It's
it's
almost
just like
like
it
you
is in
are
real
the
life.
character, right? Yeah.
yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I know what Shikamaru knows, and I don't really know well what he would know, right? Because
Yeah.
even now as like right hand to the Hokage, there's things that come across my desk, and I know things like Orochimaru is still alive and he's
Mm.
Mhm.
working at the cafe. Again, I hope I'm not giving out too much
That's all good. We
information.
we are not a spoiler free zone,
Did you
so
have you gotten into Boruto yet?
I have personally. I think I watched about maybe like the first 70 episodes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I
haven't
mean, it
yet, but
focuses on the next generation quite a bit, but
Yeah.
what I think is kind of cool is it kind of lets you know what happened to everybody else from the original
Yeah, that's what
series.
I liked it more
Mhm.
for, to be honest. I mean, I thought that I like the new characters and everything too, but it's difficult to match the old cast, obviously. So
Well,
for me, it's like,
that's because they were like for this next generation, kids will love Boruto,
of course, yeah.
and they'll be
Mhm.
like, I don't know why they're spending so much time with the Hokage. That's a
Yeah,
dull story,
yeah, the
Mhm.
old
and the
man.
rest of us are like going, oh my god, because that's exactly what he did in episode 5.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Do you watch any other anime or not really?
not really. I mean, I'm familiar with some of the stuff that's out there,
Mm,
and but I'm yeah, I don't know. I don't know, into other. We do watch a lot of television. This is
of course.
especially with COVID and the lockdown
Oh
and all
yeah.
that. We've
Mhm.
we've gone through everything from Bridgerton to Mandalorian, so
Mm.
which is quite a range. And right now, watching like Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all that
Oh,
stuff.
nice. Yeah.
Um, yeah. So I mean, I do. I mean, I guess as far as like, and again, I hope this isn't offensive. Nerd culture. I feel like I'm pretty. Like I can talk Doctor Who. I can talk.
You
Uh,
sound you sound like you know your way around it. Yeah.
a little. I know enough to not to get me in trouble. How's that? I know a lot of Star Trek. I know a lot of Star Wars. I know a lot. Like I'm pretty. I'm pretty. I've played D&D. I mean, I'm in there. I'm
Yeah.
just.
Mhm.
So I feel I can have an intelligent conversation about a lot of um those things. So
I
it
mean,
was
that's great. I
I
think
did
like
a signing down in Australia. This is about 10
oh
years
wow.
ago. And I got lucky because somebody had dropped out and they asked if I would do it. And
Mm.
I was like, fantastic. And we went to Australia, Sydney, Australia. And so they had one anime person, a Doctor Who person, and they
Mhm.
had a Star Trek Enterprise person.
Oh.
And so I was the anime guy. And the Doctor Who person was the oh, he was the one. He did one episode. They made a movie, and then it didn't go anywhere
Oh
before
wow.
they rebooted the series, right?
Yeah,
And
sure.
then they had the guy that was like the security officer from the Enterprise, the series,
Yeah.
and with Scott Bakula, that one. So they even had a thing like win a dinner with the three people. Like that was a
Oh,
contest, and I was
wow.
like, really? They're gonna like, want to win a dinner with me? So we all went to this dinner, and then what they did was there were three tables, and it was like 10 winners at each table, and it was like the Doctor Who table, the Star Trek table, and
Ah.
then the Naruto table. And so then at a certain point they said we'd like you guys to switch tables so
Oh.
that
Oh.
everybody gets sort of because they all are part of the convention. They just won
They
the
probably
Star
all
Trek
like a
one.
little bit of everything. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I go to the Star Trek one, and I immediately start talking Star Trek, Star Trek Next Generation, and we're just having a great old time just talking about all this stuff. Then I flip over to the Doctor Who table, and I start talking about Tom Baker and and all this, and they just love it. And they're eating it up. While the Star Trek guy and the Doctor Who guy had no idea what to talk about
Yeah.
at the anime table.
I was going to say anime is definitely the more niche of the three.
And it
Yeah.
was but at that time, so this was Naruto was the height of its powers. Like it was the
Okay.
biggest
Fair enough.
thing
Fair enough.
in the world at that time. Like it was, well, as far as our popularity was at its height at that moment. We were about
Right.
5 years into it, and it was really crazy. So it was funny. And then here's the other funny thing was, so they had the three of us, and they were doing autograph signings. Well, the thing is, they made all the anime free. They
Oh.
they wanted it because it was kids. They knew it was
Yeah.
more kids,
Okay.
Okay.
and
Fair
the
enough.
like the Doctor Who guy and the Star Trek guy, and then they had a Space 1999 guy, and and they were charging. So they were sitting on the stage. They had us all lined up, and there was like 2, 3 people in each of the line, except for my line, which went out the door, around the corner,
Mm.
and around the block.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, it was crazy. It was the one thing that, like, when you bought a ticket to the con, and it was a small 1-day event,
Yeah.
you got to have the anime person would sign for you for
Right.
free. It came with the
Oh yeah.
price of admission.
That's
Mm.
awesome.
And I mean, what a great, like, first of all, like, great that they wanted to see me. I was like, wow, that.
Yeah.
And then it's funny because they were like, wow, Shikamaru doesn't do that many signings or any, events or anything. Why don't you do more events? And I'm like, because nobody asks me. Because if you're going to do a Naruto thing, you're going to get Naruto, Sakura, or
Or
Sasuke,
Sasuke.
right?
Yeah.
Or
Mhm.
that's it. Those your big three, and everybody else is, they.
Yeah. I mean, they're not. They're not as. Yeah. Of course. They're
Yeah,
not as
if you can get Miley Flanagan Naruto, you're going to take her over me. Like if you can get one person, you're going to take Naruto. So it's very funny, but. And then when we went to New Zealand, it was kind of the same thing. But Steve Bloom joined me in New Zealand. You know Steve?
I do not
He's
know.
he's Orochimaru, but
Oh.
Steve Bloom, he played several characters in Naruto, but Orochimaru was his big one. So
Yeah.
when we
Mhm.
did the panels, he and I could go banter back and forth, right?
Mm.
And was fun. But Steve Bloom is the Guinness Book of World Records, has done more video games than any person who's ever lived.
Oh, jeez.
And
Wow.
he just, I mean, he does them like every day. He is the guy. If you've played Call of Duty, you've heard his voice. He's
Oh
definitely
wow.
like, if zombies in
Yeah.
Call of Duty,
Yes. Of
Mhm.
course.
he's the American guy.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's his voice. He's got
Yeah.
this really tough, hard, deep. I
Mhm.
can't even get close to it. It's he's amazing, and he's the nicest guy you'll ever meet. So, so then it was great because we had 2 of us from Naruto, and he's also the voice of Wolverine.
Oh.
So,
Oh, jeez.
So
Wow,
he's
so
a
he's
lot.
all
I'm the
around.
I did the voice of the Toy Man in Justice League Adventures, but yeah, he's Wolverine, different universes. So
Yeah, very, very different universes.
so um but anyway, and he does a thing where, if you want to learn how to do voiceover, he has like these classes.
Mm,
Bloomvox Studios, for anybody listening.
yeah,
It's great, and he really takes you through the whole thing. And he's very positive. He's very he's a good guy. He has good guests, and he's got really good techniques. And if you want to learn anything about this side of the business, um, he's really excellent, and his class is fantastic. So I'll
that's
give
awesome. Yeah,
that little
Mhm.
shout out, little
yeah, 100%.
recommendation. So
Cool. You mentioned, I guess, one more thing because
we're
we're gonna wrap
running.
up soon here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
tend to be chatty. I told you.
that's okay.
That's
Perfect.
perfect for a
This is exactly what we
podcast.
wanted.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, what's the point of a podcast if you're not chatty, right?
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the
Get a
other
guest
thing.
that goes, yes, no. no."
Yeah, exactly. That would ruin the whole vibe the whole time. Um, you mentioned, the Australia and New Zealand, con appearances. Do you do con appearances kind of frequently, or how's that work? I know you
I
mentioned,
don't, and again, it's
yeah,
because they got to ask me, and they don't. Like I said, because there's so many of us from our show that do cons.
right,
Um, so they try and I've done a few. It's not like I haven't done it. I've done
yeah,
a few. Again, it's one of those things you kind of got to pursue. And the funny thing about the lockdown, the
mm,
COVID thing,
yeah,
because I didn't used to do a ton of that stuff, and then all of a sudden these opportunities to do these virtual signings,
mm,
um, and there's a company called Streamily, and
oh
they
yeah,
they do these almost like virtual con thing. So basically, they set it up and they say, "Hey, we're gonna have a signing. It'll be this weekend," and then all of us actors pick a time, and
okay,
then we go on Instagram and we do it live. And people buy their stuff, and then we sign it, personalize it, do whatever,
oh awesome,
and they watch and they put questions on the screen, and you try and do like somewhat of a little bit of an interview. What Miley and I have started doing, because we're friends, so
yeah,
I said, Miley, I'm going to host yours. And then do you want to just host mine? And we'll just run them like you do 12 and I'll do one, and we'll just do 2 hours. But I'm
oh okay,
basically not going to sign my first hour. I'm going to just read the questions that come up the screen, and you just answer them, the questions.
yeah, so you
And
can do it together.
it worked out fantastic. So we've done that now like 3 times that way.
Oh, that's
And she's
awesome.
like, hey, we got to do it together, because it's because otherwise you're looking at the top of your head while you're writing you know
Yeah, it makes sense.
where you can be writing and you can answer a question if you're sort of being interviewed, or like if she's busy writing something very complicated, I can then take the slack and go, hey, this is how it works.
Yeah,
In the booth we have this and da da da, and do that. And so it's been really fun, and you make a little bit of money, which is kind of fun, always
yeah,
good.
of course, that's
Mhm.
good. Yeah,
And when you can't go to cons and you can't do things, um it's been great. And so I've been on a couple of those things, and now I'm doing Funko Pops. Funko
Oh
Pops.
yes,
yeah.
yes.
They just came out with my Shikamaru Nara
Oh,
Funko. So I'm going to be doing a signing for a company called
mm,
Puppeteers. There's an S, I think, on it. And that's coming up. And then I have another one. Like in May, we did a panel interview that's already been recorded, and then they're going to tie it in with a signing thing
oh,
that's
okay.
coming up. So
Hmm.
there's all sorts of stuff going on. And if you follow me at the real Tom Gibbous on Instagram, uh, uh, I can tell you everything as they come up, the things that we're doing. And anyway, so it's been kind of fun because I never
Yeah,
really did a lot of that stuff before. And I think in my Wikipedia page or something, somebody said
yeah,
the ever elusive Mr. Gibbous, who doesn't do interviews. I'm like, I
yeah.
don't do interviews because people don't
Because
ask
yeah,
me
because
to do
people don't
interviews.
ask. I mean, here we are, right? So
Yeah,
obviously you're
here we
willing.
are. Here we are.
Um, okay, well, I think that's a good place as any to wrap up. But before I do the outro, you said it earlier, but I really want to get this official. Can you please say "what a drag" in the voice?
Uh, what a drag.
Beautiful.
Perfect.
All right, cool.
I
Here,
love
I'll
it.
say it. I'll say it in the Japanese.
Oh, okay.
Oh, how troublesome.
It's just as good, to be honest.
Well,
Yeah, it is quite.
that's the Japanese translated.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Uh, so
All right. Well, I think I'm gonna do the outro here. Before I do that,
let me give you one more thing before I
sure,
go.
100%.
Hey everyone, this is Shikamaru Nara. Tune into the Real Talk podcast with me, Shikamaru Nara.
Thank you so
There you
much.
go.
Thank
We
you
can use
so
that for a
much.
promo.
There you go. Amazing. But yeah, so you mentioned your Instagram. You can plug that again right now if you want, just because we're
At
about
the
to do that.
Real Tom Gibbous at Instagram.
Yes.
And if you
please
ask me
go
for a
follow him.
request, I'm sorry, I've been flooded like crazy. So um, you may or may not. I can't make any guarantees. If you absolutely positively have to get something, go to cameo.com and Tom Gibbous is just my handle there, and I can get it for you. So if you want a voice message or whatever, if you want to just say hi, Instagram's great. So
And there you guys have it. So that's it for this episode. This was obviously amazing. Thank you so much, Tom, for coming.
Yeah, thank
hey,
you.
thanks for having
Um,
me. It was fun.
This
you,
was
sir.
yeah, this was really fun. I mean, we talked about so many things that I didn't expect us to talk about because I thought it would just be about anime and voice acting the whole time. But that was awesome. And yeah, as usual, to all the viewers, if you liked, leave a like. If you disliked, leave a dislike. Feel free to leave a comment.
Don't
And
leave a dislike.
freedom of speech. No, so yeah, thank you so much again. If you want to follow us on Instagram, that's at Real Talk Anime, and on Twitter, that's at Real_Talk_Anime. And yeah, nothing else from me. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Bye bye.
See ya.